This is Vision of the Valley, and I'm Tricia Perry. Today we're at the Mahoning County Courthouse. It has been the center for strength, justice, and the law since 1911, and we found the perfect person to tell us all about it, probate judge Robert Rusu, but he's also the building's unofficial historian. Good morning.
Good morning, Tricia. How are you?
Hi, Judge. Thank you for hosting me today and showing me this gorgeous building.
Absolutely.
And I want to start here because this is your courtroom and this is great.
Well, I would be honored to.
Let's sit down over here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Tell me where we're sitting right now.
We're in my court right now. This is the Mahoning County Probate Court. It's probably one of the smallest courtrooms in the courthouse, but that's because the issues that probate deal with, we don't typically have plaintiffs, defendants in front of us. Most of the time we have families, and we're dealing with one single individual that we're trying to take care of, trying to get them some help, either establishing a guardianship or unfortunately dealing with their estate when they pass away. So I like to use the adage that we sit around the kitchen table and we figure out people's problems. So that's why we have one table in the probate court.
So you have a picture here of what was here before, which
is
hardly recognizable. And is this the trolley line?
Yeah, there's the trolley line running right down Market Street, and there was a building right here where the courthouse sits. And I believe at the time there was a courthouse commission that it was something like $340,000 that they purchased the land, which was where the courthouse is, and the commissioner's building, which is behind us, which was the old jail.
Right.
So about $340,000. And it's just interesting to see this because there was a church on the other corner which is no longer there, which is where Huntington Bank building is now, and you still see the carts with the horses and the buggies. So
right.
I love to see those.
Yeah, it's amazing. It looks so different now. But this really has stood the test of time. It's over 100 years old now, and I remember, I think when I was reporting that there was a huge renovation going on here back in the 90s?
It was late 80s, early 90s that they realized that, hey, we have something special here. If you go before that, around the 1950s, there was this big modernization movement to get everything modern and new, and they dropped the ceilings with ceiling tile, and they covered up a lot of the murals and the architecture. And so the county commissioners, they realized Youngstown was going through a little bit of a tough time back then, and they wanted to give the people of Youngstown and Mahoning County to be proud of something. So they entered into this agreement to restore the building, which they did. And I think they did it wonderful. They hired an architect, Bob Mastriana, who did a lot of research with the Historical Society, and they were able to get a lot of the same colors. They were able to clean the paintings, the murals, and now you see what their work was. And we're lucky that we get to be working here today.
Right, they uncovered so many gems and elements of architecture that were lost or covered up for so long, and now we can enjoy it.
I think it's funny to hear the stories that they said they started cleaning things, and things that they thought were dark brown or black, they started cleaning and they're like, oh my goodness, this is marble, it's white. So it was just all the dirt, the soot over the years that nobody knew it was white.
Right. So, and now we can still all enjoy it. It's not something that people can't come in to see. It's not exactly a tourist attraction, but a little bit it is, right?
Yes, it is. It's an attraction. We try to tell the people that work here, the judges, the county commissioners, the auditor, the treasurer, we encourage people to come in. This is their building. They pay property taxes to support this building. We want them to come in. We want to show off what we do and where we work. So yes, it's open. There's a brochure that the Visitors Bureau puts out that you can come down and it'll tell you some of the murals in the courtroom. It'll tell you a little about the history. And we encourage you to come down. If you happen to see myself or another county official, ask us. We'd be more than happy to take you around. I love taking students. We're coming up to May 1st. We always do Law Week. We give tours as the Bar Association to 7th and 8th grade students. So I love showing it off. So anytime you want to come down, anybody wants to come down, you come down, I'll give you a tour.
So what's it like working here, being here every day?
It's a privilege, number one. It really is a privilege because I'm an elected official, and I take that very seriously because I'm representing the people of the Mahoning County. But two, it's you get this awe that there were so many important, prominent people before you, and you start looking like, I wonder who sat there. I wonder if a prominent person back in the day sat there. My jury chairs that you see behind me, I'm lucky that I still have the original underworkings of the jury boxes and chairs. All the other ones have been redone. Mine don't get used that often because there's only 2 times you can get a jury trial in probate. So we don't have that many jury trials. Most of them are bench trials tried in front of me. So mine haven't worn out yet. So 100 plus years, they haven't worn out.
Those are good chairs.
They are very good chairs. Some people say a little uncomfortable. You can't go anywhere in the United States and not meet somebody from Mahoning Valley. It's amazing. Every time I travel, I always meet somebody. So when you talk to the people, what made us up, it's family, it's history, it's our traditions. And so yes, I think we do need to keep a sense of where we came from, what makes us special, and not be so critical on ourselves. Yes, Youngstown has its bad problems, but it's also got a lot of gems. I mean, I've seen you do the Butler Art Museum, I've seen you at the YSU, the Mill Creek Park, so we got a lot of things to be happy and proud about. And I think it's like people who live next to the beach. They don't really appreciate the beach because they live there all the time.
Basically what I'm struck by standing here is this story that goes on all the way around the room. I think it's amazing. And as you said, it's all the parts of the steel story, right?
Correct.
So take me through it again.
Okay, so if we look here, this is the barge. You can see the big ship up in the left-hand corner. And these are the gentlemen unloading the barges that would bring in the coal and the iron ore to make the steel. And then over here we have a picture of the blast furnaces where the gentleman, it's called tapping the blast furnace to making sure that the steel has been melted and it would be ready to be poured out. One thing I find interesting about this is that you could tell it was back in the 1900s because OSHA wouldn't let this happen today. Look at the guy with bare-chested. There's no safety equipment. They were just there working hard. Here is where it's actually poured out into the cauldrons. And then from there they go into the ingots to be poured out into either rolled steel or iron.
And we might even mention, if you're ever giving a tour of this room again, what that guy is holding, I believe, is a jam bar, which is why they call the jam bar, the newspaper at YSU, the jam bar. So yeah, it was a very important tool in making steel.
Correct.
So anyway, this is just such a great room and such a great story. And you said the smallest courtroom, but still has this amazing story on the walls.
It really does, and that's what's fascinating. And then I have all this Honduran mahogany.
Oh, wow.
Come from Honduras. It's just absolutely gorgeous. It aligns my whole court. And I sit in here sometimes and I just soak it all in and just can't believe that this came so far away 100 plus years ago.
And that's just this one small courtroom. There's so much more to see. We're going to go up to the 4th floor next, right? And start up?
Yes, we're going to start up and then go down.
Just like a tour, right?
Very good.
In all my years covering stories here, I was never in this room, I don't think, not even once.
Okay.
So this is pretty amazing. Tell me about around the top. What
Okay, well, we're in the Mahoning County Law Library.
Right.
And these are all famous individuals that had something to do with the law.
Okay.
As you can see, Solomon from biblical time, Justinian, Moses, of course, with the 10 Commandments, Blackstone, Thomas Jefferson, who authored the
Of course, Thomas Jefferson.
Declaration of Independence.
My personal favorite.
So yeah, this is our library. Susan McGrew is our librarian, and Patty is our assistant here. And the public, this is open to the public. This is funded by the Mahoning County Commissioners, which was a recent change in about the last, I would say about 10 years. Before it was a private organization that was funded primarily by the lawyers. The Mahoning County Bar Association would join the Law Library Association, and they raised money from dues and renting books and things like that. But it's now funded by the commissioners, which is state law, and the public can come in and look up any case law or look up laws that they want to, if they're interested.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So one thing that was recently done is the floors, right?
Yes.
Did you uncover something up here? Tell me about that.
Well, it's a funny little story because it used to be carpet, and nobody knew that this gorgeous mosaic was on the bottom of tiled terrazzo.
Seriously.
And this was done when the courthouse was built, turn of the century, 1900.
It's beautiful.
And yeah, this looks like what you would see in a Roman bath if you went to Rome or Greece. And Susan wanted to make some changes as a new law librarian, like every librarian wants to do, put their own stamp on everything. And she had, I think, Commissioner Righetti was here, and they said, well, let's see what's underneath that. So they pulled it up, and lo and behold, they found this beautiful terrazzo floor. So we give her and
look at she's over there. It wasn't me.
Very credit. Yeah. Well, they did find it, and they had Youngstown Tile Terrazzo, a Youngstown company, come in, totally clean it, redo it, and now we are the benefactors of this beautiful thing. So we're still
uncovering secrets and treasures in this beautiful building.
Yes.
You thought you saw it all, and there's always something hidden and that pops out every now and then, right?
Right.
See what happens in another 10 years. Okay, so where do we go next on the 4th floor?
Next, we're going to go over to Judge Sweeney's courtroom, and we're going to show her that, okay?
All right, let's do that. This is Judge Sweeney's courtroom.
Yes.
No murals on the wall.
No murals. This used to be the 7th District Court of Appeals offices. And what's unique about this courtroom is that it's got the only handicapped accessible jury box in the courthouse. So, but it's a little less ornate, but you still have the stained glass windows, which are
beautiful lighting and beautiful colors. I love it.
Correct. And then the beautiful architecture designs up top. Because this was the Court of Appeals before the Court of Appeals moved down to Federal Street. And it's a larger courtroom, it's a lot bigger than mine. But rumor has it that this courtroom has a little bit of a haunting history to it. So there was a magistrate that still works here that told a story that back in when the courthouse was built, this was the last section of the courthouse when they were finishing it, and there was still some scaffolding up. So there was a gentleman that committed a murder of a 14-year-old girl, and they had a trial, and they found him guilty, and they sentenced him to death. And so there was an execution, and they hung him actually on the scaffolding from the courthouse. So ever since that day, people believe that this courtroom is haunted. And the magistrate that works here says he was working one evening, and he said, I felt somebody whack me on the back of my shoulder, and he says it was hard, and I turned around like, what? And there was nobody there. So he still thinks it's got a little bit of haunting history. So
I don't know. You might have to do Halloween tours or something,
right.
Ghost tours. But this is beautiful, and it's hard to believe. You know, it's so pretty. Sometimes it's hard to believe anything bad ever happens here. But it is all about trials.
Correct.
And, you know, keeping justice.
Keeping justice and make sure justice is done.
Right. This is beautiful. Where to next?
Very good. Well, we're going to head down to the second floor and see a couple of the murals in Judge Kirchbaum and Judge Durkins' courtroom.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Let's go. So of course this courtroom, the feature of this is it's got one of the famous murals, one of two, right?
Yes.
And it's the trial?
It's the first trial in Mahoning County. It was painted by C.Y. Young for the sum of $5,000 back in early 1900s. That's a lot of money.
Wow.
It depicts a scene where an Indian man, he has his arms folded there. He was accused of killing a settler in the Mahoning Valley.
Right.
And that's his accuser right there who is pointing at him, saying that he's the one that did it. The judge is the gentleman seated with the book in his left knee. There's a transcriptionist that we still have today,
Okay.
not him, of course,
Yeah.
but he's taking down what was said during the testimony.
Yes.
And then also there's a gentleman that's right behind, I believe, the gentleman with the staff or the stick.
Mm-hmm.
The gentleman with the white shirt on, he was the prosecutor. And he is the father of the governor of Ohio, David Todd, our 25th governor.
Right. Well, this is beautiful. And again, people were in this courtroom often and didn't maybe really know the story of it.
They didn't know the story, and this is considered one of the finest paintings of early American history.
Yeah.
So it was very well known at the time, and still is, and that's why we like to keep the story going. This is Judge Scott Kirchbaum's courtroom. He is a general division common pleas judge, and one of the larger courtrooms, and once again, very ornate and very beautiful.
Looks like he has the original chairs too, though.
He does, yes.
He does, at least except for one.
The pedestals are the same, but the seats all underneath, the components all have been changed because they get a lot more use.
Yes, they do.
Than my court.
Yes, I think I spent a few hours in here at some point.
Back in the days.
Yes. But no, this is lovely, and really all you really need here is this mural. Yours had a mural going all the way around. This one is just one wall, but very special, and when you take a tour you can hear about this.
Absolutely. We love telling the kids about this, and they love hearing a little bit about the story and seeing how the things have come together over time, how our laws have, and traditions, with the transcriptionist, with the accuser pointing out the defendant. They like to hear those stories. So.
And there's one other mural.
One other mural that we're going to go see in Judge Durkins' courtroom next.
All right, let's go. So Judge Durkin, this is his courtroom.
Yes.
Right? And it has the second famous mural up on the wall.
Right, titled Council Rock. This rock is still in existence. It's over at Lincoln Park on the city's east side. And the story behind it was that the Indian tribes of the day were all celebrating a great victory over the British forces during the French and Indian War. And there was this big storm that rolled in, and a huge lightning bolt came down and split Council Rock, what they call it, and killed 300 Indians.
Oh my goodness.
And the Indians felt that they must have angered the Great Spirit, and so they buried their dead and they never returned to that location. But this is still located in the city. It's painted by Vincent Andorente, who was a disciple of Edwin Blashfield, who painted the penitentives in the courthouse rotunda. So everybody was kind of tied in. I believe the cost of this was around $5,000 as well. And we still have a beautiful painting of Native American history here in Mahoning County.
So I've been to other county courthouses in this area, and I don't recall that maybe they have quite this level of grandeur and art and history. Is there something to be said about why this courthouse in Mahoning County was so lavish and so detailed?
I think so. I think from the history that I've read, the council leader or the county leaders wanted to make a statement that says, listen, Youngstown is here to compete with any big city. We have the talent, we have the money, and we're willing to bring those people in. And Edwin Blashfield, Vincent Andorente, Albert Wolf, who painted mine, they were all well known, and that's what the wealthy did back then. They brought in famous people so they could flaunt their wealth and say, look at us. A little interesting tidbit, as you notice, when we were up on the upper floors, those courtrooms don't have murals. It's only down on the second and first floor that have the beautiful murals, because those cost so much money, like in my courtroom. The story goes, if you kind of read between the lines, the county commissioners were no different than they are today. When they started the courthouse project, they had money. So they started doing the bottom floors, but they quickly ran out of money. So that's why the upper floors aren't as ornate as the lower floors. They just simply ran out of money. And that's a problem that county commissioners are faced with today.
Right.
They start a project and then it goes over budget.
But they did feel it was important enough to have parts of our history depicted as larger than life.
Yes.
in the first couple of floors.
Absolutely.
And on the rotunda.
And on the rotunda, right, which I think we'll head down there next.
Okay. This is one of my favorite parts of this, is the majestic staircases all over the place, which of course you have to be careful and hold on to the railings.
Yes, you do.
But beautiful. I mean, this is just, it takes us right down to the center.
This is so grand.
It is grand.
That it just gives that sense of awe.
It does.
Inspires.
Right.
And we have our beautiful dome.
I know. I don't even know where to look first. So above us, way above us, is all of the townships around that
Correct.
circle.
Right in the dome are all the townships that make up Mahoning County. All the kids like to see that when they come down. They like to pick out where their township is.
Of course. It's like the Canfield Fair and all the roads being
exactly
named for the township. It's all tied together.
Oh, that's right.
But this is beautiful. A lot of big events have happened here.
Huge events. One of the most important in my life is when I got sworn in. I got sworn in right here in this rotunda. I actually do an adoption day every November. The first week of November, we do an adoption day. We bring out the proceedings out of my courtroom, try to bring it in to let the community know that there's children out there that need to be adopted.
Yeah.
And it's just it's a great opportunity. And anything that has to do with Mahoning County usually is in the courthouse rotunda.
So it's lovely to stand here on the ground floor, but it is great to also go to each level and see this rotunda from all of those different levels.
Absolutely, because you get to see different things.
And one thing we can't see that closely from down here is the corners and the pictures in the corners. What are those about?
Correct. Those were painted by Edwin Blatchfield. He was the famous muralist. That they wanted something that would depict the four major periods of law in our history. So you have biblical law, you have classical antiquity, you have the Middle Ages, and then you have modern law. So each one of the corners represents one of those periods of law.
That's wonderful.
And so it tells you a little bit of history, still gives that symbolism for the individuals visiting the courthouse.
And you start the tour on the fourth floor where you can see those very
real
closely.
close, yeah. So the children like to see that, and we like to point that out. So.
Okay, so again, anytime you want to come for a tour, you can call, or what should you do to find out how to get a tour?
Absolutely. The courthouse is open every day from 8:30 to 4:30. Holidays excluded, of course. Mm-hmm. But please come down. You can pay your taxes over in the treasurer's office if you'd like. You can come down and get a copy of your deed from the recorder's office. A lot of people like that. And the probate court, you can come and you can look up filings. You can get a marriage license if you'd like to get married. You can change your name. So this courthouse is open. The courtrooms that we visited, if there's trials going on, those are open to the public. You can sit in the galley. You don't have to pre-register. You just have to come, be quiet, silence your cell phones, and just take it in, because it is much different than being on a television set.
And you welcome people to come to your courtroom too. You like to show them your courtroom?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we can't see them from here, but everybody has to look up when they're outside this building,
so
right?
as you leave or as you enter the courthouse, make sure you look up. There are three statues up top on a pedestal that are made of bronze. It was when the courthouse was first built, and they are 17 feet tall, weigh 2,000 pounds. And there's three individuals up there that represent strength, liberty, and the law. They have been recently gone through a recent renovation in 2016 where they were taken down for several years. They took an acid bath. They got their soldering all fixed up, and then they were placed back up on the pedestal in 2016.
Now, were those there when the whole place was dedicated and opened in 1911, or did they come later?
Yes, no, they were there in 1911 when the place was open, and it was, once again, look at us, we have arrived, and they are massive. They had them set down here in front of the courthouse, and people could walk up and take their picture with them in 2016, and the cost was about $70,000, but they estimated that if they had to redo them, it would cost well over $500,000. So it was well worth the $70,000 investment that we got. So make sure you take a look at them because they consist of two female figures and one male figure. The male figure is the gentleman with the sword representing strength. And then the ladies are justice and fairness in the law. And so it's quite impressive to see from the outside.
Yes. Okay, so this is a hallway I don't think I ever saw when I was reporting. This is sort of where what you would consider a jail then.
Correct.
Right?
This is our holding area. This is the practical aspect of the court. We saw the beautiful parts, but the court does serve as a function to deter crime. And so when the accused come over from the county jail, they have to be transported over for their court hearings.
Right.
And so they're held here, which is like a mini jail. So we have 3 holding areas. The sheriff runs this office, and they do a wonderful job keeping us safe, keeping the public safe, and keeping the defendants as well safe.
So we're in the bowels of the courthouse here, and in this cubby under a stairway, we've got all of these record books that look incredibly old. So
Yes.
tell me, what is this? This is some of your department.
Yes, this is my department. We're in the basement of the probate court. And as the probate judge, I'm required to keep certain records. I have to keep a record of all the wills of anybody who's passed away. I have to keep a record of all marriage licenses that were filed here in Mahoning County. And these are those documents. They go back to the early 1800s. And the Historical Society and the Genealogical Society are here often. Looking up records, doing genealogical tests, and we do have a famous person that we have her marriage license on record.
Who is that?
That would be Miss Ella Fitzgerald, the famous entertainer and singer.
How on earth did she get her marriage license here?
Well, if you're living in Mahoning County and you want to get married in Mahoning County, you have to apply for a marriage license in the county where you live. Well, she was living in Youngstown at the time, and her and her husband came down, got a marriage license, and so we can show it to you if you like.
I think everybody should know that she lived here, which I did not know until
Absolutely.
right now.
And it clearly says right on her application, it says entertainer.
Wonderful. Oh my
Yes.
goodness. That is, I'm sure there are other famous people. You have really all of, when people are trying to find genealogy and that kind of thing, this is where they come.
This is where they come, and that's becoming more and more popular. People want to know about their history, so they're coming down, and we're seeing an increase in that. And so we're so fortunate that we were able to keep this history, and I love sharing it. So come on down.
And this is just a fraction of it, right?
This is just a fraction. We
'Cause
have
they're
a
all
lot
around.
more. Yeah.
Yeah, they're back here. They're around
There's
the corner.
another whole other room behind us.
Yeah. And when you finish the tour and you step outside, don't forget to take a moment to pause, turn around, and look up, because justice, strength, and the law are right up there. For Vision of the Valley, I'm Tricia Perry.